Good evening, Miss Weber. This is my professional article video, and so the article I chose to read and discuss was More Than Teachable Moments, Enhancing Oral Vocabulary Instruction in Our Classrooms, and it's by Susan Newman and Kathleen Roscos. On my computer screen right here, I have what I wanted to say, just so I made sure I got all the key points. So overall, this article entitled The Fact That There Are Both Benefits and Challenges When Using Teachable Moments as a primary strategy for oral vocabulary instruction. It is gestured that children need more and more intentional oral vocabulary instruction from the earliest grades, starting in kinder and first and second grade, in order for them to be more successful by developing academic and content-rich vocabulary in the later grades, such as the middle school grades and the high school grades. I really like this article because it provided examples on how to demonstrate vocabulary teaching moments that weren't planned in the lessons, and it shows you how to teach some that were planned. Two key points that really stood out to me within the article was how it mentioned that associating words into conversations that spark children's interest are more likely to be remembered far better than if students were asked to go get a dictionary, write down the definition of the word, write down an example of the word. I know that a lot of teachers use that still to this day to teach vocabulary, but if you bring in the conversation that they want to talk about, then they're more likely to listen and comprehend it, which, I think that's a given, but sometimes it's needed for a reassurance issue. The second big key point that I tapped into was that I like the reality check on these teachable moments are opportunistic, and they are likely to be different in different classrooms. So you can't always assume that your students already know this vocabulary because, they might have heard it before in their lives, or they might have heard it in another classroom. You can't ever assume that, so you always have to be sure you reassure that vocabulary, that you mention it again, you let them know what it is, just in case. I think that sometimes teachers forget that key fact, and they're talking so much and they're talking fast that sometimes they don't think, oh wait, do my kids actually know what this means? Do they know what I'm meaning by this? Or are they just listening to it? One thing that I did not like about the article, or what I would change, is that it gave a fact that by grade 4, children with limited vocabulary knowledge are likely to slump in reading comprehension and will often continue out as struggling readers throughout their schooling. I think that personally is just putting assuming doubt on those students, and in reality, as teachers, especially because I want to teach the older kids, that's a time for us to go in there and change it for them, help them out, give them confidence and boost them into the right way where they're not going to go into that statistic that is being shown. So if I could change that, I wouldn't put that in the article, just because we are trying to we're trying to boost their confidence, not hurt them. I think this article would be really useful to my peers as future educators, and the way that it gives examples of activities that you can use formally and informally within classroom lessons. It also mentions many considerations that come along with teaching oral vocabulary beyond teachable moments. It lists a lot of good outcomes and downfalls that may happen, so it's telling you what to expect, but it's also saying we need to be doing this. We need to do this more than what we do. And then in the end, my overall take on it was just that repetition is key, like everything else we do. You either use it or you lose it, and that's how vocabulary is sometimes for children. If they don't hear the word a lot, they don't use the word a lot, they're not going to know this word. And the overall fact that for children in the school system, they need both teachable moments that are planned and some that are not, with systematic instruction to ensure their long-term reading performance and academic success that comes from vocabulary. And then this article ties into multiple lessons that we've talked about, especially viewing, reading, how the social interaction ties into vocabulary. And it also mentions how successful comprehension of a text is just making sure they understand what vocabulary they're reading in the text. So you may need to do a lesson beforehand, you may need to do a lesson after, you may need to mention it, side conversations, just make sure they're understanding it. And then second language learners benefit from explicit instruction with vocabulary. So giving them real life examples may be easier for them to connect with than giving them examples from the text. So repetition of the use in the word in the real world. So overall, I really like that article, and I could see myself looking back onto it in my future. That's it.